Three Stages of Scorpio series. Stage 2, the Eagle, the Observer, the Truth Seeker, the second stage of transformation. The Eagle stage begins quietly. It doesn't arrive with chaos or conflict. It arrives in a moment of realization, often after a long emotional battle where Scorpio finally sees that surviving is no longer enough. Something inside them shifts. They stop fighting every shadow. They stop clinging to old wounds. They stop letting the world pull reactions out of them. For the first time, Scorpio doesn't feel the need to sting. They feel the need to understand. This is when they rise above the noise. The Eagle sees life from a higher point of view, where everything becomes clearer than it ever was at ground level. Scorpio begins to notice patterns in people. They notice who drains them, who challenges them, who lies, who avoids truth, who loves, who only pretends. Their intuition sharpens into something so precise that it feels like a sense beyond the five. They sense motives long before actions. They read emotional undercurrents that others don't even realize they are expressing. In this stage, Scorpio becomes someone who no longer reacts in the moment. They pause. They breathe. They look deeper. They have learned that reacting quickly often leads to regret, and regret is something Scorpio remembers longer than most people understand. The Eagle learns to hold their fire, not to suppress their emotions, but to master them. They start valuing clarity over victory, peace over proving a point, truth over intensity. They choose to rise instead of sting. This stage teaches Scorpio one of the hardest lessons they ever learn. Their sting is powerful, and if used carelessly, it can destroy things that were never meant to be destroyed. As the Scorpion, they reacted out of pain, fear, and instinct. They didn't know how to separate the threat from the moment. They didn't know how to differentiate a wound from a misunderstanding. Their sting came fast, and sometimes it shattered things that could have healed. The Eagle sees this now. They understand the responsibility that comes with their power. This realization softens Scorpio, but not in a weak way. It softens them in a wise way. They begin to understand that not every situation deserves their intensity. Not every person deserves their reaction. Not every moment requires defense. The Eagle learns to hold back, not because they are afraid, but because they are in control. They learn the difference between emotional impulse and emotional truth, between reaction and wisdom, between protection and destruction. As they rise into this new version of themselves, they begin to look back at their life with fresh eyes. They see their own patterns clearly. They see how fear influenced their choices. They see how their desire to protect themselves sometimes kept them from experiencing the love or peace they truly wanted. They see how reacting quickly made them feel strong in the moment, but empty afterward. They begin to understand their shadow with compassion instead of shame. This is the beginning of true self-awareness. The Eagle phase is a stage of emotional stillness. Scorpio becomes quieter, not because they care less, but because they care differently. Their silence is not avoidance, it is analysis, it is reflection, it is choosing not to damage what could grow. It is choosing not to harm themselves when their emotions feel too big. They sit with their feelings instead of throwing them outward. They study them. They learn from them. They grow through them. This is also when Scorpio begins to trust their intuition more than anything else. They stop second-guessing what they sense. When someone's energy feels off, they believe it. When something doesn't sit right, they honor that feeling. They don't force themselves into situations that drain them. They don't argue with their instincts. They don't explain what they feel to people who cannot understand it. The Eagle protects their inner truth quietly but fiercely. People often mistake this stage for detachment. They think Scorpio doesn't care. They think the distance is rejection. But the distance is purpose. Scorpio is choosing peace, stability, and emotional safety. They no longer want relationships filled with guessing, fighting, or confusion. They want depth without destruction, passion without chaos, connection without control. They want something real, and they know now what real feels like. This stage is when Scorpio becomes selective. not out of arrogance but out of growth. They no longer open their heart to anyone who knocks. They no longer trust words without actions. They no longer tolerate half-truths or emotional inconsistency. They don't need loud promises. They need solid energy. They need someone who speaks with their soul, not just their mouth. And when Scorpio finds people who meet them at this level, their guard relaxes. Their energy softens. Their presence becomes grounding instead of intense. They are still passionate, but their passion is directed with purpose. They are still emotional, but their emotions no longer control them. They are still powerful, but their power is steady and quiet. The eagle stage also brings healing. Scorpio begins to forgive themselves for who they were in earlier stages. They understand that the scorpion was not wrong. It was needed. It was survival. It was the version of them that protected their heart long enough for them to reach this phase. The eagle doesn't hate the scorpion. The eagle honors it. Because without surviving, they could never learn how to soar. And as Scorpio continues rising, they begin to shed emotional skin they once thought they could never let go of. Old resentments begin to fade. Old fears begin to lose their grip. They no longer cling to the past. They no longer seek closure from others. They create closure within themselves. This newfound emotional freedom makes them lighter, calmer, more self-assured. The eagle is the stage of emotional elevation. The stage where Scorpio learns that their power isn't in their sting. Their power is in their vision, their patience, their intuition, their ability to rise above turbulence instead of drowning in it. And when Scorpio masters this stage, when they no longer respond from fear, when their intuition becomes their guide, when their past no longer controls them, something extraordinary begins to happen. The old self starts falling away. The old pain dissolves. The old identity becomes too small for who they are becoming. This is when Scorpio moves to the final transformation. Stage 3, the Phoenix, the rebirth.